Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cryptane Plays Minecraft. Just a little note, you might want to consider this more of like a podcast with Minecraft in the background. So you don't necessarily have to watch what I'm doing. There is a game plan here, naturally. But just something to keep in mind that, you go about your daily business and as I go over the topics. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the first topic I want to go into is stop procrastinating. A problem that a lot of people have. I know myself, I do have the same exact problem. Anyways, I found an article here that kind of goes into a detail about why we procrastinate and perhaps some methods like meditation or whatnot to help kind of change the workings of our mind in a way so that way, we can actually get things that we want to get done. Done. So I would say give that a look-see if you think you have problems with procrastination or would like to work around that. Another topic is analog film. This is interesting. I always like learning about the history of certain things, and this is rather interesting about how film has developed over the years. And what formats we've used, why we use them. If you're familiar with how old reels used to be, they used to be incredibly flammable. He goes into details about all this. I think he only has one video on his channel so far, but if he continues to make videos like this, I would highly recommend it. It's really well done. He also goes a little bit into detail about digital versus analog, and then like some of the first films to actually use digital too, but not really. It's mostly about analog film. Certainly interesting. So I would give that a look-see. And as always, there's a link down in the description. Another interesting article I was reading was about record players. For the audiophiles out there, I'm sure you're more familiar with this, and if you don't know what an audiophile is, that's someone who is deeply interested in getting a pure, high-quality audio experience, which is why a lot of people will say that vinyl is the way to go. And why that is, well, the video will go over that. It's kind of like that other video I had of the pool table in a previous episode, where they kind of go into the depth of how the vinyls are made and how the record player actually plays the audio, so you get a very pure experience. So I thought that was pretty interesting. You might want to give that a look-see too. I know I'm starting off with some maybe perhaps less interesting things, but don't worry, I'm going to get into the meat of it here. So another topic though, for those of you who do or do not have PC gaming as part of their lifestyle, maybe you're into consoles, maybe you're interested in getting into PC gaming, I don't know, and I can understand the merits of console gaming, don't get me wrong. You buy one console, you get how many years of use out of it, and it's all easy, plug and play type experience, and everybody's on the same format. It's very convenient. But if you've ever been interested in the benefits of PC gaming, this will go over that, and also on creating your own PC too. They go into detail and they go over some myths dispelling certain fears you might have with, I think it's this way for those chests, right? It's kind of hard now. If you've noticed, I've obviously cleared all this out. I filled in so much. That's what all this dirt is where all the water used to be. So we're getting there. But yeah, so they go over all that, and if you've ever been interested in that, I would give that a look-see. And oh, there we go. And you can get yourself started in possibly getting into PC gaming. Personally, I think it's the way to go if you have the money, obviously. If you don't, console gaming is definitely a fantastic. But if you have the money, or if you can budget your money in certain ways, because there's a lot of deals, such as Steam sales and whatnot, where you can go the console route and end up getting things on the cheap in a way that kind of makes things work out in a way. Plus, depending on what you want to use your PC for, you might get a lot of other uses, such as what I'm doing right now. uh, editing, and then also making videos. So, oh, this is getting stirring. Now we're good. So, certainly a lot of benefits if you want to go down that route. Okay, so another article I was reading is, if you know, I've sent you links to this before, TheVerge.com, one of my favorite tech sites of the modern era. They've got new articles coming out about the state of the gadgets. State of the Gadget Union is the one I linked here. It's all about how technology is becoming pervasive enough where basically because of the way cell phones are ubiquitous now, the technology from cell phones are actually being used across the board in anything now, right? So from the droids that fly over, possibly deliver via Amazon down the road, or skateboards, or heck, even a toothbrush, VR, whatever, what have you. They thought it was pertinent to start to go over those things more in more vivid detail, and with that in mind, they have a new part of their system called Circuit Breaker. And they're going to go over the gadgets more so than the software side. So everything that's going to have, from your home, your home systems, your lighting, even in your house, light bulbs these days have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and they can all be interconnected in such a way that was unfathomable before. So certainly interesting if you want to keep up with technology. I've always wanted to retrofit my house with a whole bunch of new lighting and stuff, and having it all connected to my cell phone. It'd be really cool to be able to walk home, have the door just automatically unlocked via my cell phone, and have all the lights turn on, have the thermostat via Nest or something, automatically have the appropriate temperature, and just everything to be interconnected and make our lives easier. Always find that stuff interesting, so I would give that a look. So now, if you've been following Fallout, you know that they announced back in E3 that they were going to have mods on consoles. And that's going to be... that was pretty crazy when they announced that back in the day. So it looks like that's actually come out on the PC anyways. What you could do, though, since you have to sign in through the Bethesda.net account, you can actually get everything favorited in preparation for the console. And the good thing about these mods is you might not be able to get like a huge graphical overhaul or whatnot, but there's a lot of mods that are simply cosmetic, or there's one that I've linked here specifically, which is the unofficial patch mod, which will fix a lot of the quirks that Bethesda just simply hasn't gotten around to fixing for one reason or another. And the players have taken it upon themselves. And when that comes out on consoles, I believe in May for Xbox One and June in PS4, you'll be able to get that rolling. Also, it's all integrated. It's very slick. It's all integrated into Fallout 4 itself. When you do the mods, what the? So you just log into Fallout when it finally comes out. You can select the mods. You can select load order, which can be important. Certain mods may require other mods to run, and therefore the one that it requires has to be loaded before it. Certain cases like that, where you might want certain orders to make things work properly. But it looks like it's going to be an interesting experience. So we're all getting excited for that. Really cool that consoles are going to be able to finally experience mods, which they haven't been able to before. So, good on them for that. So the next one is the Google City. So Google has a company under their belt, or more like Alphabet, I guess, Sidewalk Lab, and they're considering buying a swath of a city, probably run down for the cheap, and then updating it with new technologies, making it a technological epicenter. And it's a really cool idea. They'd be able to have, if they could do this and get it like separately, separate laws, so to speak, for themselves, to be able to have autonomous driving on the forefront and certain technologies in place to Wi-Fi everywhere type thing, and really show you what a city has the potential to be. And also, by doing this and having a working ecosystem where they can test these products out. They can get things to market a little easier. Really interesting idea. Kind of excited to see where that goes. At the very least, it'd be a fun place to visit. I know Japan did something like this back in the day with I forget what it was called, but they essentially had like a full city where they didn't have power lines. This is way back in the day. No power lines anywhere. They had garbage chutes in every building that went straight to the garbage places. All wiring and infrastructure was all underground in these tunnels that you could easily have access to and work on. It was really interesting and a very clean looking city. So this kind of reminds me of that and what they might do down the road. On top of that, looks like some scientists were working on some nanowiring for batteries, and it seems like they inadvertently have discovered that they have made a battery with infinite recharge cycles. Whether you may or may not know, lithium-ion batteries now have a certain number of recharge cycles, and over time they eventually degrade, where a battery that used to be able to go to 100% can only ever get to 80%, so to speak. And it continues to go down to the point where, your battery's borderline useless. But apparently with this new wiring that they have, it seems like they'll be able to have infinite recharge cycles, which is really great for technology, although we tend to replace our technology so often, I'm not sure the value. But to a degree, after a couple of years, your batteries do degrade, and same with cars specifically. If they can get that implemented to that, you never had, the big fear is, oh man, recharging your battery, cut your car battery. You only get it for so many years before it's, then the range you can get in your car is limited by this. So with this new technology, potentially, we wouldn't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. So that's great. It's definitely worth a look. Another interesting thing is Intel seems to be on the bandwagon of getting rid of the headphone jack on PCs in particular for them. But we've heard about this before, actually, from Apple. They're planning, or at least it's rumored anyways, where they're planning on getting rid of the headphone jack in their new cell phones that are coming out. And the reason for this is the bulk, maybe to help thin down the device, and also they just don't believe it's necessary anymore. One more point of entry, So, and yes, the reason why I'm leaving this one row of water is so that all my plants keep growing, at least for now, until I figure out a new place for me to put this little farm I got going here. But yeah, so that's interesting. But I mean, with the death of the headphone jack, the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, will come good things. I mean, it'll make audio all digital. I believe the fidelity would be a lot better this way, and it also gives you a lot more controls, and it'll allow us to remove some hardware from the headsets themselves that they use, because they'd be able to be powered by a USB Type-C or whatever the case may be. So they wouldn't need to be as heavy headsets and whatnot. So there's certainly a lot of benefits this way. The obvious downside is that a lot of people use the USB jack on their phone or whatever to power it, and then therefore using your headphones at the same time can be tricky, but I'm sure they'd be able to do an adapter or something like that in that case, for worst case scenario. But something interesting nonetheless. Anyways, other news, for those of you who are Zelda fans or just like to follow Nintendo, looks like they've announced the release date of Nintendo NX. Kind of interesting. Usually companies don't do this. They usually wait for E3 to announce when they're coming out with a new console, so why they went ahead of time, who knows, but it seems like a worldwide release on March 2017 for the Nintendo NX, and then with that, the new Zelda game is also going to come out in the NX. I believe it'll also be coming out on the Wii U, but definitely coming out on the NX too. So that's just interesting. I'm sure we'll learn more at E3. Definitely, since that'll be only a short order between that and March. So, but yeah, if you're interested in that, then that's the new console coming out. So, get your use out of your Wii U. Got Mario. What was it? Mario Maker. You got that and whatnot. So there's still some great games on there, and you can get your use out of it. But if you're considering trading it in or whatever, now would be the time to get your money's worth before people start to learn about the new console. then I've watched a few movies that I have to catch you guys up on. Jungle Book by Jon Favreau, directed by anyways. Fantastic adaptation of the Disney classic. It's virtually all CG. Really well done. Really good acting. It has a lot of big actors: Bill Murray, Ben Kingsley. Hello. Oof. Idris Elba, Scarlett Johansson, and Christopher Walken, who I love. you know, more cowbell. There's a lot of jokes and whatnot in that movie that are subtle, less so, some less so, but a really great adaptation done for our time. And I would highly recommend you go see that movie if you love the Jungle Book movie, the original animated one by Disney. So it holds pretty true, a little bit more on a serious tone, but a par for the course. So I would highly recommend checking that out. But super well done. The CG is like superb. You might be able to tell it's CG, but it's so, we're almost at that point where you just can't tell anymore almost. And that's pretty exciting, you know. Because that'll be the dawn of a new era when you really actually can't tell who's what and what's this and what's that. Yeah, give that a look-see. Definitely worth your time if you love the Jungle Book. Another movie I watched was The Witch. Fantastic acting. It was done on location. It's a movie back in, I believe, the 1800s. Based around folklore of the time, obviously witchcraft. And it's just an interesting storytelling of that era and our understanding at the time of what witchcraft was. Because at the time, I mean, people really believed in witchcraft. They really thought it wasn't existent. They believed in magic and all that, as they do. And this goes into that, and the real fears that were out there in the world. And then as the events unfold, you'll have to watch it to see where they go with that. Really well done, though. Great acting. A lot of kids in this movie, and for having a lot of kids, they really actually had really good acting among them. So definitely really great, and the animals too. Yeah, and like I said, the setting is really great. When they had to get all the work done, they had to have the right mood all the time because it is outdoors. Not an easy feat to accomplish, but they seem to have done it well. I remember watching it thinking that all the lighting and stuff was always consistent and well done, and atmospheric in the way that you would want a movie like that to be. So I would give that a look-see. And then finally, the last movie I watched was Midnight Special. A little bit more low-key, you might not have heard of it, but it has someone who I'm sure everybody knows by now, Adam Driver, in it, which is Kylo Ren from Star Wars. So if you like Adam Driver, I liked him before that and from other things as well, but he's in there. And they also have Michael Shannon, Joel Edgerton, Kirsten Dunst, and then they also have Paul Sparks from House of Cards. If you've seen the show, he's a writer. He plays a writer in the show. Fantastic to see him getting roles in movies. And then also The Kid, which is about a kid who gets powers, or who has powers. Doesn't get powers. Sorry, he has powers, and it's very mysterious. You don't really know why or what they do, and it kind of goes over this over the course of the movie. Very mysterious. But he's also really well acted as well. He's been in St. Vincent, on Bill Murray movie that came out a little while ago. Also well done, well acted. Seems like he's an up and coming star. This young lad. So I would definitely give that a look-see. And then on the anime front, I've been watching a series. Not quite done it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it my stamp of approval ahead of time. Rage of Bahamut. Really well done. It's a fantasy anime, and the storyline might be a little bit on the thin side, but That's okay, because having a thin story, I've always accepted, as long as the characters have a lot of chemistry. And in this anime, they have a lot of chemistry, and chemistry is oh so important for the enjoyment. So if you're interested in really good action and really good chemistry between the actors, at least in the dub version, I believe the main male actor is done by the same voice actor who does Space Dandy, if you know that show. Fantastic, really hilarious, that show. This show's supposed to be pretty funny too. It's really well done. I would give that a watch. Give my stamp of approval. So with all that, that's everything that I have for this week. There's one other ongoing thing that I read the other day. I'm not going to put a link to it, unfortunately, because this is something kind of off the top of my head. But Elon Musk, my little favorite here, he has a little competition about AI that he's started up. And the competition is about building AI, an open source AI, that can compete in like Atari games. I think they had like 50 plus Atari games that they would compete the AI against each other and how well they can get a high score in the game, which is really interesting, right? Because I know Atari games especially are very linear and specific in their patterns, but to have AI to learn and progress through them and then compete on the fly is really interesting. And for progress in that front. So I thought that was really interesting. Also, SpaceX has got a contract from the U.S. government, NASA. The U.S. Air Force, I believe. Sorry, to launch a satellite. Also, I don't have a link to this. Sorry, I just was reading about it, where they can launch a satellite, and that means they broke the many-year contract that the government has had with Boeing and Lockheed Martin, both big military contractors. So that's really interesting that this commercial company SpaceX has finally broken through those contracts to finally get that, which is a good sign, because that means that commercial spacefaring is hopefully just a short while away. Like something like this happened. Oh my gosh, I keep doing it. I don't know how do you do it? This way? Ugh, whatever. So hopefully spaceflight is just a short hop and a skip. He's also got plans to launch a spacecraft to Mars, 2018, I believe, is the time frame, to land a little not a rover, but I believe like a little habitat, and it's with sensors on it to see how it fares over time in preparation for a future manned mission to Mars. So really interesting stuff there. You'll have to look that up. Maybe I'll find a link and I'll throw that in the description, but we'll see. But anyways, that's really all interesting stuff, I thought. This week... Oh, no. Yes. So thanks for watching. This. Oh, yeah. So I'll just really quickly, though, as you can see, I've cleared all this out. So yes, I'm just going to fill in all this little dirt. Like I said before, a long time ago, these pillars are kind of where the outline of this whole system is going to be. Kind of looks like a plus, I guess, a little elongated in the middle here. There's reasons, but I basically had to fill in all the water between here and here. Well, there's no water here, but like, for instance, all this water has to be filled in, so that'll take some time. But we're almost getting there, guys, and then I can get into some building. Granted, I don't know how much more interesting the building would be, but as always, this show is about the news and current events. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.